Hey there, welcome to the sermon preview for this week. I'm glad you're taking a second to join me here today. We are continuing on in our Wake Up Call series focused on the book of Malachi, going into week 7, which means this is our last week. This was a 7-week series, and we've worked through this book verse by verse, phrase by phrase, chapter by chapter, and have looked at what has God been trying to teach these Israelite people in this time and in this place. But what does that mean for us as well? But more importantly, what do we learn about God? What do we learn about His character, His faithfulness, His love as we dig into Malachi? So, like I said, this is the 7th week. This is our last week of Malachi. We're going to be looking at Malachi chapter 4, verses 1 through 6. This is the whole chapter. It's only 6 verses, and so we're going to look at the whole thing at one time. Now, in this passage here, in Malachi chapter 4, we see various different things, but all of which are focused on the future, right? It's looking forward. So Malachi is writing to these people, helping them to look forward into the future, more specifically to eternity, and helping them figure out where is their place in eternity. Because we see that this verse ends up being an extension of last week's verse, and last week we ended on where God was distinguishing between those that were righteous and those that were wicked, or those that served the Lord and those that didn't serve the Lord. And so taking those two groups of people, he's laying these things out of there are various different promises for those that are wicked and various different promises for those that are righteous. And so more than anything, Malachi is trying to prepare the people for the coming of the Lord, right? For the coming of the Messiah. He's trying to prepare them for the day of the Lord. And so we see within this, we have to remember that Malachi is writing from the vantage point before Jesus came the first time. So he's the coming of the Lord, or the coming of the Messiah. There wasn't a distinguishment between the first one and the second one, the first coming and the second coming. There was just the coming of the Lord. And so we today have the luxury of looking back with 2020 hindsight, recognizing that Jesus' first coming, that was the coming of the Lord, but then the second coming will also be the coming of the Lord. So there's these two comings, these two Advents. Advent actually means coming, and we're actually going into Advent here soon. But we have this idea that the day of the Lord is coming. And so as you look to prepare for this week, for this sermon, first I would encourage you to read the whole book of Malachi. Again, there's something really powerful in going from passage by passage, working our way through, but there's something even more powerful after we've done that, to go back and reread the whole book and see how it all works together as a unit, because as Malachi wrote it, he wrote it as a unit, not piece by piece, and so it's important to look at it as a whole. So go back, read through the rest, or all of Malachi. It's only 4 chapters, 4 short chapters. It doesn't take you long. And just look through, how was God trying to wake you up? What were different things that He was trying to do to draw you near to Him, to wake up, to return to the Lord? Because that's what Malachi's purpose was with the Israelites here. He was trying to get them to return to the Lord. So read through that. But then also focus on this passage and reflect on this idea of how are you preparing for the day of the Lord. Looking from our vantage point now, we know the second coming has yet to come. So how are you preparing for that second coming? How are you preparing for the day of the Lord? So I'm looking forward to this Sunday. I hope you are as well. It should be a good time wrapping up this series in the book of Malachi. We'll see you then. Take care.